Today has been a day of celebration. We have spent the day productively celebrating the spirit of the Indian School of Business and trying to demonstrate our commitment to the three pillars that constitute our vision and mission: excellence in education, excellence in research, and excellence in outreach, in impact, in our desire to make a difference. In particular, it's also been, as Ajit, our dean, mentioned in his morning address, a coming out party, if you like, for the four institutes that are now firmly entrenched at our new campus in Mohali. Our first campus of the Indian School of Business in Hyderabad was launched in the year 2000. 2.5 years ago, as you know, the ISB Mohali campus commenced its operations. The two campuses are components of our philosophy of one school, two campuses. They are seamlessly integrated in their vision and mission, in their offerings, in their commitment to excellence. The programs, the education programs that run at ISB, the PGP program, our flagship MBA program, our executive MBA program that we call PGP Max, our program dedicated to family business that we call MFAB, our portfolio of executive education programs, more than 150 of them that we launch and deliver to the Indian corporates and indeed corporates around the world every year. All of them are seamlessly integrated across the both campuses. One school, two campuses. At the same time, the ISB Mohali campus had the privilege of hosting for the first time 4 institutes dedicated to 4 sectors. As you are undoubtedly aware, business schools typically tend to be organized around functional verticals: finance, marketing, operations, and so on. We do that, and we do that well. But in addition, in Mohali, we have committed ourselves to focusing across 4 sectors as well. Think of them as horizontals that cut across the functional verticals. And these 4 sectors are public policy, manufacturing, healthcare, and infrastructure. And as you would agree readily, between or among these 4 sectors, we pretty much straddle the key areas of importance for this nation at this time of its growth and evolution. The Indian School of Business was very fortunate in its efforts to do this, to find 4 passionate founding supporters, as we call them. The Bharati group of companies joined hands with the Indian School of Business to launch what we now call the Bharati Institute of Public Policy. The Max group of companies came forward and helped us establish the Max Institute of Healthcare Management. The Hero group of companies came together and offered us support in setting up the Munjal Institute for Global Manufacturing, and the Punj Lloyd group of companies has been the inspiration and support on the basis of which we now have the Punj Lloyd Institute of Infrastructure Management. Together, these 4 founder supporters, these 4 benefactors, were responsible for providing the bulk of the capital and the inspiration for setting up the ISB Mohali campus, within which these 4 institutes are now located. And these 4 institutes, as the ISB, are in turn dedicated to the same 3 pillars: excellence in education, excellence in research, and excellence in engagement and outreach and impact. In some ways, being the sectoral institutes that they are, they represent the edge of the wedge, if you like, in creating impact. Through these institutes, in these 4 sectors, we seek and hope to make an impact, to be able to make a difference, driven, of course, by our primary drivers of education and research. With that ambition in mind, we are trying to do our best. And today, as I said, was the coming out party to announce to the world that we are here. We are here to serve. We are here to engage. We are here to do research. We are here to create education programs. And we are indeed, as we speak, as I speak, creating, in the process of designing education programs, short-term, medium-term, long-term, in these 4 sectors. The short-term and the medium-term programs are offered in collaboration with the Center for Executive Education, for which ISB, among other things, is well known. We are easily the largest executive education program in the country, perhaps one of the largest, if not the largest, executive education programs in Asia. And as you are aware, ISB itself was established in partnership with, in 2000, with the Wharton School of Finance and the Kellogg School at the Northwestern University. London Business School subsequently joined as an associate of the school. The 4 institutes that I just referred to, in turn, have also provided us an opportunity to build fresh partnerships, new bridges, if you like. The Bharti Institute has a partnership with the Fletcher School at Tufts University. The Munjal Institute is in partnership with MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The Healthcare Institute, the Max Institute, is in partnership with the Wharton School of Finance again. And the Infrastructure Institute is again in partnership with MIT. And those of you who attended the last session this afternoon, this evening, had the pleasure of listening to Richard, Professor Richard de Neufeld, right? Richard, where are you? Help. Who's here in person to participate in this event. This morning in the public policy session, our partner school, Fletcher School, was represented by Professor Bhaskar, who joined us on audio, and so on. So it gives me great pleasure to invite on stage the founder supporters, Mr. Rakesh Bharati Mittal, and he's promised to tell us something about his middle name Bharti and how it got there. Mr. Analjeet from the Max Group, Mr. Analjeet Singh, Mr. Sunil Munjal from the Hero Group of Companies, and Mr. Atul Kunj, the young and debonair from the Punj Lloyd Institute of Infrastructure Management. Now, we are not trying to create a debating competition here for an election around the corner, but I just thought it'll be nice for us to get maximum exposure to these 4 gentlemen by making them stand in front of her for as long as possible. And a privilege. So I'm going to basically request each one of them to share with us, and we'll start from my left to my right. We will ask them to share with us a glimpse into their commitment to the sectors in which they are engaged, in which they are leaders in the country, to give us a sense of where it all came from. All of them have, I know, rich family histories, and all of them are in this for much more than just money making. There is deep-seated commitment and passion that drives their businesses. We'd like to get a bit of an insight into that, if they will give us a peep, and also to tell us what it means for them to be demonstrating their commitment to these sectors by investing, as they have done, big bucks and a lot of emotional energy, more importantly. A lot of emotional energy, a lot of intellectual energy that we receive from them on a regular basis into these 4 institutes. What are their aspirations and goals? What do they want us to do? What do they want us to, where do they want us to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And what do they think, in general, about the role of academia and academic institution in partnering with industry and with government and with the community to solve common problems. Thank you very much. And with these few words, I'm going to hand over the place to Rakesh Bharti Mittal.
Thank you, Pradeep, and very good evening to all. First of all, let me extend a very warm welcome on my personal behalf. I know it's been a long day for all of you, but as Pradeep says, you'll have to bear us for some time. And I knew that there are no free dinners or lunches, so we have to sweat it out, four of us. What Pradeep did not mention, I would just like to complete that is, this is a very unique initiative where a management school has partnered with 4 specialized institutes. And this is the first time it has happened in the world. And I think ISB, from that perspective, is the pioneer. And I remember my meeting with Dean Elwood at Howard Kennedy School, and he said, it'll be intriguing to see how it pans out. And I'm extremely happy at the outcome. For the last couple of years, all of us have invested a lot of our time, but my compliments to Dean Ajit Rangnekar, Pradeep, and the executive directors of 4 institutes and the team for putting their best foot forward in making ISB Mohali campus a buzzing one and a great one. At Bharti Enterprises, beyond business, our thrust has always been in education to bring in social changes and social interventions. While we did start a journey by setting up higher educational institutions, to name a few, Bharti School of Telecommunications Technology and Management in partnership with IIT Delhi, Bharti Center for Telecom Research at IIT Mumbai, and then Bharti Institute of Public Policy at the Mohali campus. And I will leave some of the initial, if I may say, the storyline with Analjit and Sunil Munjal to share with all of you. I personally believe education is one powerful tool which brings about great changes and empowerment. And if we can couple that with public policy making and training of policy makers, especially when we talk of myriad policies across the country and a country like India, it becomes a potent tool for delivering high quality, cutting edge education, research, and management. And I think that is what our vision has been for the Bharti Institute of Public Policy. I'm not going to deliberate or belabor more on what we are doing at the Institute. Pradeep has already shared, and I think during the day, many things have been shared and said about that. But I must also place on record here our partnership with the Fletcher School, and especially the program leader, Laura Jacques, who is proactively driving the agenda of putting the public policy courses in executive education, research, and as we just heard about, the management program in public policy, which is getting launched in April 2015. What is my long-term aspiration from this institute and the campus at Mohali? I think while we rolled out the management program like in Hyderabad and started offering electives in all the 4 specialization areas, what I believe ultimately is going to be full-fledged degree programs from all the 4 institutes. So similarly from the Public Policy Institute as well. But more importantly, I think if I look at the 3 areas which are specialized in their own way, healthcare, infrastructure, and manufacturing, public policy is one area which touches each and every aspect of what we do. And especially when we look at Prime Minister Modi talking about more governance and less government, I think the public policy becomes even more important from that aspect. And let me close by, because I thought I'll not say anything beyond, but Pradeep did ask me to share why my middle name Bharti and how has it come about. Well, it's a long story, but I'll cut it very short. My father carried the surname Mittal, and all of you know, and some of our foreign friends, the trading community, the Baniyas, have some age-old traditions which he was dead against. especially on giving dowry and I think there were some social ills which were went ahead with the Baniya community, but I mean, as a matter of fact, today everyone has become a Baniya. I mean, this has become a norm now. So he said that my children will not carry the surname Mittal. And being a true nationalist, he named me Bharti, and all through our education, we three brothers carried the name Rakesh Bharti, Sunil Bharti, and Rajan Bharti. And in '76, I come into business. So the first guy walks in, he says, well, why don't you write Mittal? I shared the story. I did it 10 times, and I said, either I need to keep a tape recorder, or I need to have something hanging around my neck, because I just can't keep on repeating the same thing. Might as well bring Mittal back, and that's how the full name, Rakesh Bharti Mittal, came back. Thank you, Pradeep. Thanks.
Thank you, Rakesh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Pleasure to be here. I'll speak for the Max Institute of Healthcare Management. Keep a larger picture in mind. 3 bullet points or data points. That India spends 4%. I have some competition. The competition will never go out of my life. Can you calm down there, please? India spends 4% of its GDP on healthcare. The United States spends 18% of its GDP on healthcare. 1. 2, in the ensuing years, India needs 1 million more doctors, 2 million nurses, 3 million beds, and 6 million paramedics. Data point number 3, that somewhere around 70 to 80% of India's fresh capital expenditure in the healthcare sector comes from the private sector. And it is also true that somewhere around 70 to 80% of resources spent on care are paid through private hands, corporates, individuals, and the like. This is the background. Now, in the cocktail session there, I heard that the discussions went well today, and a couple of people remarked that they were very candid, sir. So I said, what do you mean? So they said that there were people who were for and against the role of the private sector, and some were quite critical, and not graciously so. I want to remind everybody, public or private representatives of society, that since 1991 or 92, if you look to what privatization has done in the telecom sector, in the banking sector, in the airline sector, in the insurance sector, in other financial services, and so on and so forth, I think there is absolutely no doubt that the private sector has found a newfound respect for itself. So the fact that people should be untowardly critical of the private sector is something that I feel is grossly unfair. That's the larger picture. On the Max Institute here, the inspiration was, as a founder member of ISB itself, not ISB Mohali, but ISB, we were closely engaged on how to increase the footprint of ISB. And we started thinking about executive education in the North. And one thing followed the next, and we said, why executive education? Why not a second campus? Maybe Hong Kong had some influence on this, what do you call it? One, what do they say? Yeah, and Hong Kong says, yeah, so maybe the inspiration came from there. So we set afoot to create this school or this campus here. And as far as Max is concerned, we've always been very, very focused on our footprint, which is why this institute till a couple of years ago was focused in the NCR, and now in just to 3 other cities in North India. Because we believe focus is the mantra for success, success being service excellence, medical excellence. And a patient in Delhi there's no advantage to anybody in Bombay or Calcutta or Madras, whether there is a Max Healthcare there or not. So leverage your capability in a tighter setting was the mantra. And it's still sort of the way we think. So if we go outside the North, it will not be to another city, it will be to another region, and then we'll spend 10 years in that region. And so we said we have a healthcare provider base of around 2,000 beds, now gradually doubling in the next 5 years. We have created what we call the Max Institute of Health Education and Research, which is engaged in medical education, nursing education, and skilling. But we are missing one very, very important piece, and that is the management. Who are the managers who are going to manage this huge supply deficit that exists in the healthcare sector? Because we're just coming out of being a cottage industry. I still don't think we've reached small scale yet in the healthcare sector. So we have to grow and find our managers. So do we go it alone, or do we plug it along with a business school? Choice was obvious. And that's how, that was the reasoning or the logic between sponsoring this institute. And we have our executive director here, Mark Allen, who is helping us to forge a strategy to give a lot of focus in producing managers who will be MBAs coming out of the ISB system. And then, of course, once we've done that, we will extend ourselves to touching other parts of healthcare management as a, public-private partnerships, public health, and so on and so forth. So that's our vision for this institute. And we've just started. The school started only a couple of years ago. The campus started only a couple of years ago. And I think you will find that we will take lots of steps in the coming years to really make this a top-notch healthcare management program, not only in India, but hopefully in this region. Thank you very much, and over to you, Sunil.
Thank you, Manu. This reminds me a little bit of school or college. I find people trying to kind of drift to the back and park themselves as far away as possible from the front. May I request all of you guys to come up here, please? Right here, in the front, all of you at the back. Lies, damned lies, and statistics is the way Mr. S.L. Sharma used to introduce this subject in school. One would know whom I'm talking about. And it's interesting, in India, if you look at the way we played with numbers for the last 50 years, it's a little bit of a mystery where we actually stand. What is really going on? What is the level of literacy? What is the level of employment? What is the per capita income? What are the poverty numbers? We hear different numbers for each one of them all the time. But one thing is clear, and I do agree with what Manu said, in the last 20 years, all of these numbers have actually got better. Regardless of how you cut this, poverty continues to be our biggest challenge, but the challenge has reduced a little bit, only a little bit, but it still continues to be a big challenge. What we did as a family and a group some 20 or 25 years ago was we took a decision that any new business we get into, we will only do, of course, we have the regular criteria anybody else has, which is the financial returns, etc. But we added two more things on top of that. One was that it must have a positive social fallout. The more the impact, the more attractive that business is for us. And second, that somebody in the senior team in the group must be passionate about that business, otherwise we will not get into the business. And it's interesting how in the last few years, the businesses that we've picked actually had a very big impact and dramatic growth even in the early years. Also, the family's upbringing from the old days, our family, like many others here in North India, were actually refugees from the partition days, and they came very late across what became the border and left everything behind, homes, business, property, assets. So they came, the original business was started really and only to provide for the families. But because of the kind of the family values and the business being very small, with just 2 or 3 people, they became our business values. They were originally practiced by my dad and my uncles because they were the ones running the business. Over time, we enshrined them as the way we would actually run all businesses. So now, as a group, we are very open to new ideas and new businesses. But one thing that nobody is allowed to question is the group philosophy itself, which is to do with people, with relationships, with fair play, and things of the like, which sound like motherhood statements. But the interesting thing is, when you practice them, they actually work like magic. So we have been very, very fortunate that as a group, we have grown in one generation from scratch to where we are today. So many years ago, from the family side, from the family foundation and trust, we started to do things which we felt would have an impact on society around us. And our big focus was and has been education, while we do a few other things in healthcare, in clean drinking water. But the big area is education, vocational skills, and training. We have about 30,000 children studying in our high schools right now. We run a B.Ed college, an M.Ed college. We're involved in multiple institutions outside, and also involved in probably what might be the largest single location teaching hospital. I'm not sure if it's the largest, but certainly would be one of the largest in the country. And when this discussion started with the ISB, Manu, I don't know, Manu, you didn't explain the history of this, but it's an interesting history of how this actually came about. I'm talking now about the Mohali campus. We said our focus has been to put money where either the disadvantaged or the disenfranchised would get an opportunity. But when we sit back and look at India, India needs to grow at all levels, and this is what we were discussing earlier in the day. You also need to build India at the top end. How do you build the best talent in the world? How do you build that pipeline in India itself? And ISB is a perfect vehicle to do that. But then we said, what is the area that we need to focus on? As a nation, if we have to address the 250 million people who live in abject poverty today, the only positive way to do that is through prosperity, through growth. And the way we currently are structured, where 68 to 72% of India lives in the rural areas, 54% depends on agriculture as the primary source of income. And we expect, by the way, in the next 20 to 30 years, the largest migration mankind has seen on this planet to take place in India. This number of 68 to 72% is likely to drop to 50% in the rural areas, which means millions of people are going to move to the cities and towns. Today, we are not equipped for this. So how do you create productive employment? Services are doing exceedingly well. Agriculture, while it served India well, but has very low yields and productivity. If you improve productivity, there will be less jobs available on the farms. The only other option available to us as a nation, and interestingly, the current government seems to have recognized this and turned this into one of its major missions, which they call Make in India. So we said we have to find a way to make manufacturing sexier, make it more attractive. Because what happens today? You go to the class at ISB, and when people come in to look for placements, most of the class says, I'd like to join a consulting firm, or a bank, or an investment bank, or a financial services firm. So what's wrong with manufacturing? Part of the work which we need to do is social and cultural, to be able to respect people who work with their hands more than we do currently. But at the same time, it is also important to build an environment which will not just foster, but actually encourage innovation, new ideation, build the ability to build new products quicker, faster, cheaper, better than the rest of the world. If you can do that, only if you can do that, can you create the 1 million jobs a month, every month that you need for the next 30 years? Even if you can do that for 15 to 20 years, our big challenge will be out of the way, but we need to do it on both ends, and which is how the idea of the Munjal Institute for Global Manufacturing came about. And we said we would be happy to share some of the ideas that we have learned within our companies, through our associates and partners, because we've been fortunate to be in a universe of manufacturing which is considered the most efficient in its industry in the world right now. In fact, while we are the largest in terms of volume, we have been fortunate to get the distinction of also being the most productive and efficient company in the industry across the globe. Our current productivity is about 18% higher than this other global leading companies in the same business. So there is a lot of opportunity here in manufacturing. If we can light that spark through this institute, I think that would be a job well done. So that is an opportunity. And that is also the big challenge for ISB and for us at the Institute. I hope and wish we will move down this road and be able to serve not just India, but the world's new ideas, because it's also recognized that not only is India likely to produce new products, India is also likely to produce new business models. And I hope these 4 institutes together will contribute to this. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I think I'm really standing between you and your meal. At the outset, I'd like to say that, as a group, we have been engaged in the standard CSR type activities, vocational training, medical outreach, school, B.Ed, college, etc. And I must confess I'd be lying if I said that there was any great thought process that went through my mind before we committed to building this institute. I'll be honest and tell you the circumstance as how it took place. A few of us, including Anuljit, were in Singapore for an Indo-Singapore Joint Business Council. Is that what it's called, Manu? Yeah. And suddenly I turned around and asked Sunil, Rakesh's brother, I said, where's Manu gone? So he's taking a flight to Hyderabad. I said, well, what for? There's a whole day left of this whole delegation. So he said there's that ISB board meeting in Hyderabad where he's going to discuss a new proposal. So I said, so what proposal is that? So he's just set up a new campus in the north, and ISB would partner with this initiative. So I said, really, what is going on? So he came up and he talked about the healthcare, he talked about the public policy, and he talked about the manufacturing. I said, hold on a minute. What about infrastructure? So he said, what about it? So I said, there is no school in the world that teaches anything about infrastructure. So can you please call Manu and ask him if he can please put in a pitch for the infra school as well? So there was, in Singapore, at the airport, at Changi Airport, Sunil called Manu, and he was kind enough to bring it up, and so here I'm standing. So there was no real long-drawn process in my mind. Yeah. But having said that, now having made the commitment, the thought process started as to what did I really commit to? What are we talking about? Which is the question that I think even Ajit asked me as recently as a year ago. So what is this whole infrastructure school about? Now, as it turned out, what we found was that in India, we were talking at the time of about $1 trillion of infrastructure build-out to happen, partly in the private sector, partly in the public, and a lot of it in the joint area. But there was no capability or competence that was available through any institute that really educated people on how to roll out infrastructure efficiently, because it cuts across various different areas. Public policy is a very key part to it in terms of land acquisition, PPAs or pass-through agreements or wheeling charges for electricity, fuel supply agreements, tolling, the whole process by which you choose consultants, make the DPRs, choose the contractors, manage them, make sure you get completion, get the initial investors out, bring in the long-term players after the construction has been de-risked. So there's a whole area that needed to be looked at that really we found that there was no competency that was available within the country. So we really developed this program pretty much on the fly. And I think we're probably the last starters or the last off the block. But I think we've got a good handle as to exactly what course this whole program is going to take. We're lucky to have Pradeep in Mohali because he comes with an infra background, both on the implementation as well as the financial side, plus a public policy background in terms of his IAS background. So we're now supporting it with a bunch of new talent and resources that we're bringing in. And I dare say it would probably be the only institute that I know of that in partnership with MIT, who's going to be lending a major, playing a major role in this, would really create a unique course that would hopefully help us get good quality infrastructure that caters for needs going forward in the most efficient manner possible in the shortest possible period of time. So if we can achieve that, I think as far as we're concerned as a group, we would have achieved a lot and delivered something back to society. So that really is the reason and what we're looking to achieve in this institute. So that's the long and short of it. Thank you very much.
Mickey or Atul, incidentally, we have a bunch of names, so we're still only 4 people here. Thank you for laying it out the way it was. That's absolutely correct. And I can thank you for your readiness and the quick manner in which you acted. So really, we all appreciate that. One little nitty-gritty fact that, the school started about 2 years ago, and my dear friend Ajit has been saying to me practically niggling me for the last 2 years and say, you've forgotten us, you're not around. I was delegated from being a board member of ISB to becoming the site manager of ISB Mohali. So I said, Ajit, I'm done. Too much heavy lifting. I need chutti for 2 years. 2 years are over and I'm back. Mark, Ajit, Pradeep, and thank God for Pradeep being there.
So just to add to that, I think on behalf of all of us, we need to put on record the series, and Analjit actually became site manager. Okay, he had his team there, his people there, some of whom I see over here today, really put in a significant effort to get this thing to reality.
And those of you who would like to see what Analjit really excels at, and that is being a site manager, please come and visit our campus.
Yeah.
And you see the output.
Not only
that was created.
also his interest in horticulture. He has named every blade of grass
Right.
in the campus.
Right. And we measure the height of those trees every 3 months and keep a record. We are very proud of the campus, and I would be delighted to host as many of you as possible for not only a visit but an overnight stay. We think of
Pradeep,
it-
I would like to add one more thing. I think we also need to recognize the kind of team that we have at ISB. Both the faculty and the administrative team has done an absolutely outstanding job. There is no other school in the world. There is not one school in the world which in this early stage of its life got recognized globally as amongst the leading schools in the world. So I think there is recognition which is due. So thank you from all of us and from the entire community. Great show, guys, and keep it up.
Pradeep, if I may, that comment was strictly for public. That's not for our internal meetings.
That is more serious business.
Rakesh, would you like to share a little bit more about your foundation, the Bharti Foundation? You didn't get a chance to talk about that and all the work that they are doing in education outside the ISB.
So why am I just being singled out?
Because I just remembered that Sunil was able to talk about some of the foundation work.
Quickly,
And-
now it's me who's standing in between the meal and
Not the meal, there's more
and the
drinking to
balance
be
of the
done.
evening. Sorry. Yeah.
There's more drinking to be done, not the meal yet.
Well, that's not my glass to say so.
Not your cup of tea.
As Pradeep has just mentioned, let me quickly share with you on the initiatives of Bharti Foundation. While I did talk about our thrust in the area of education for social intervention, today Bharti Foundation runs 254 village schools across 6 states under the program Satya Bharti schools at the elementary, primary, and secondary level. But more importantly, we have 42,000 children who are studying in these schools. 1,800 teachers are on my rolls. And I think my team has done phenomenal work getting into rural hinterland, and I'm talking of villages here, and putting up these infrastructures. And not only that, absolutely making sure that everything is managed and monitored well. The processes which have been put in place are like any other world-class school. And the focus has been on the girl child. So out of the 42,000, we have 49% girls. And more importantly, when I look at areas like Farrukhabad, Shahjahanpur, which is Muslim-dominated, Murshidabad, there the girl population is 55%. And I think that gives me great satisfaction that the mindset has changed of not only just sending the boys to get educated, they want to also send their girls. And I'm a very strong believer. You educate a girl, you educate future generations. You educate a boy and it stops there. I mean, then we sort of get into doing all these stupid things. And all this education is being provided absolutely free. And my vision and my target to the team is any child whose parents cannot afford to pay fees in any other school, that child need to be welcomed on campus. And these are small 4 to 6 room schools, getting on to 8 rooms when we get into class 8 elementary education, and 5 senior secondary school in partnership with the government of Punjab. And I think the greatest satisfaction which I derive out of this is 42,000 smiles every morning in my schools. tens and scores of stories being written every day in my schools. And if I start sharing that with you, we'll be sitting here for a couple of months, I think, looking at the last. And then quickly, I also want to share here that we just launched a huge sanitation program, Satya Bharti Abhiyan, where I have adopted our home district. Me and Sunil come from Ludhiana. We grew up together. Where across 915 villages, Bharti Foundation will go and construct a toilet in every village home which does not have a toilet. And we are making a commitment that in the next 2 to 3 years, Ludhiana rural area villages will become free from open defecation. And in addition to that, all government schools which don't have a separate toilet for girls will go and build one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, Q&A, I think. But, you know, one of the guiding principles of ISB, of course, is that we never let our directors have the last word. You know, we so I must you know, stand between you. But I think jokes apart, I want to thank, you know, ISB is what it is because of the enormous philanthropic contribution that a large number of individuals have made. And the 4 representatives who are here, I must personally thank you for that. Not just the money, but the time, the effort. Somebody once asked me, he said, you mean to say your board spends a whole day with you? I said, yes. He says, wow. And I would give an arm and a leg for that. I said, no, we actually take an arm and a leg from them for it. So, you can add to that, board members spend months together. That's true. That's true. But no, I think this is what really, and I think Rakesh, I completely resonated with you when you talked about, you know, what happiness is. And there are some alumni here, and when I see how successful they are, that's what really makes us happy. But there's one small nugget of information which was left out, and I thought we must bring it out. Last year's class, there were 5 students of ISB who specialized in healthcare and participated in a global competition. It's the largest, biggest, truly global competition called the HULT competition, which is actually started by the Clinton Global Initiative. And we got into the finals, and I was lucky enough to attend the finals and actually see President Clinton announce that the ISB team had won the $1 million prize for HULT. So Analjeet and Mark and all of you at the Max Institute, you should be proud of the contributions that we make, not just to education, but to society at large. So thank you.
The bar is open and the night is young. Thank you very much.